Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 14 of What to Think, VentureBeat's opinionated tech news podcast. I'm Dylan Tweeney, and I'm here with Jordan Novett.
Hey, Dylan.
Hey, Jordan. First, we're going to do our usual thing of going down the top news headlines, and then we're going to bring on today's special guest, who is Hillary Mason, a renowned data scientist and a fixture of the New York tech scene, to talk about her new startup. But first, the top tech news. This week, Yahoo announced that it was buying Flurry. And what, may you ask, is Flurry? Well, it is a company that does data analytics and mobile advertising to help advertisers figure out where their ads are going. And it's, I think, not just mobile, but actually across apps and the web as well. For a large amount of money, we're told. We're still trying to figure out the exact amount, but rumors are putting it at 300 million, maybe even higher. It seems clear that Yahoo needs to catch up to Google and to Facebook in terms of owning the online advertising space. Do you think this is going to make a difference, Jordan?
No. I know they've been trying to improve their game when it comes to designing mobile apps.
Yes.
And maybe that'll actually be the big achievement here, where Yahoo will be able to design applications people will like more and will start using more and will actually start pinging Yahoo servers more than Microsoft search engine or, dare I say, Google. So it could be merely a way to actually get better information, more insight. Facebook bought a company called Onavo last year.
Yes.
That kind of has similar abilities. I think that has helped. What I hear is it's useful internally for Facebook to see what's getting hot. And this might have some advantage for Yahoo when it comes to making apps that people actually want. So and maybe acquisition strategy as well.
See, that's an interesting point, because I don't think you need to spend hundreds of millions to acquire design, right? You could buy a design studio for, a few tens of millions, probably.
Yes,
even
but
a really
will it
good
be
one.
Effective?
Right. So that's the issue, is the data. It's that data that tells you what's working and what's not working. Maybe Yahoo needs that. It's interesting. Facebook got into trouble last week for doing these experiments, psychology experiments on its users.
And it started with data scientists, I hate to say.
They did. But what's interesting is web companies have been doing this for years. 10 years ago, I was talking to a data scientist, although he wasn't called a data scientist at the time. He was called a sociologist who was doing the same thing at Yahoo. Not necessarily experimenting with people's moods, but he was like, look, we can do real-time sociology experiments on the, hundreds of millions of clicks we get every day. That's an enormous data set and an enormous lab for scientists to test. Facebook, got in trouble because they were fairly cynically attempting to manipulate people's moods without giving them any warning that that's what they're doing. But, this Flurry acquisition points to the same thing, which is you need data to figure out what's working. You
do, and it turns out that Yahoo does have a very long history of working with data. Some of the core Hadoop
came from Yahoo.
Are from
that's where it was invented,
right? So I'm not going to say that they don't know crap about researching what people click on, but for mobile, Flurry is very highly regarded. So it might be a matter of getting better insights into what's going on people's mobile devices.
All right. Well, we'll find out more about that, I'm sure. Stay tuned. VentureBeat.com. We'll have more news on Yahoo as the days go forward, and on Flurry, no doubt. Let's talk about our next story. It was announced in the last week that IBM and Apple were going to be partnering up, and in some sort of fairly vaguely specified ways. I think they did talk about selling iPads and iPhones into the enterprise, where obviously they are already an incredibly popular device. Despite Apple's reputation for being a consumer-friendly company, they actually get used in businesses an awful lot. But our reporter, Rich Riley, found that there might be something else behind this partnership, and I'm kind of intrigued by this.
It's not just about selling devices. I'm sure that is a concern for Apple as Google targets more enterprise-friendly features.
But what is it about, Jordan?
Okay, so the news that Rich Riley broke is that the real deal is it could be a matter of trying to get an integration with Siri and Watson. Siri is the intelligent assistant, so-called intelligent.
Sort of intelligent. She's kind of a dumb assistant, in my opinion.
Although they're working on it, from what I hear. But Watson is useful for hospitals and colleges. I just saw something about maybe some health insurance uses that end users, regular people, could use Watson for.
Now, this is IBM's truly powerful artificial intelligence and natural language recognition technology that they used most famously a few years ago to win Jeopardy.
That's right. And people...
So in the future, you'll have to phrase all your requests to Siri in the form of a Jeopardy question, right?
You must have been thinking about that for a while. That's a great line.
I just came up with that, but I'm really glad it made you laugh so hard, Jordan.
I love it.
But yeah, I mean, if Siri could recognize your intent and your questions as intelligently as Watson currently does, and then had access to the same kind of resources for answering questions as Watson currently does, that could be a very powerful combination.
It might take time to actually productize it if it's in fact true. One thing people have criticized Watson for is it takes a long time to implement and to feed in data before data can be recognized. So Apple has built up a gadget, the Siri, I should say, intelligent assistant that people can play around with.
Yes.
But to get a higher accuracy when, for example, it's a noisy room, when there's a lot more words to recognize, that might be something that'll take a long time if Apple ever is going to productize this.
Well, if Apple is smart, and I expect that they are, they probably have been storing an enormous amount of data about the things that people are actually asking, maybe even those very sound files. So they probably have terabytes of data that they could feed into Watson right now.
Petabytes.
Yeah. And let's not be shy here. Yeah,
maybe more.
It's a lot.
Maybe more.
I'm sure it's a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it will be interesting to see if that materializes. Another thing that's in the pipeline, and actually another Rich Riley story, I would have brought him into the show today, except that he's busy covering other stuff, has to do with Facebook and video ads in the mobile app.
Yeah, what's the deal with this? I know my regular ads with pictures and words, but can I really get video ads served up anytime soon?
Right. So the first thing you need to know is that video ads in mobile are actually a really powerful thing. Even though I can't imagine using my precious mobile bandwidth and my tiny ass iPhone screen to watch an advertisement, a commercial, advertisers have found that video ads are very, very effective at driving sales, at getting people to install new apps. And so lots of app makers are incorporating video ads. Facebook is going to be doing that. And with a wrinkle, they have this thing called sequential video ads, which are basically, they'll show you one ad, which will kind of pique your interest.
Right.
And then if they can find you and follow up with you, they'll show you another ad later that, kind of sinks the hook a little bit deeper. And then they'll show you a third ad that's designed to close the sale and get you to actually buy something or install an app.
Seal the deal.
And they will be able to target you across different devices.
Oh.
So if you're looking at Facebook on your phone in the app, you might see the first one of those ads, and then later that night when you're at home on your tablet or your desktop, they'll show you the second ad.
Now, one thing that would be another wrinkle is whether that would be going on across different kinds of devices. Android, iOS, Windows per se, dare I say.
I don't know about the different types of devices, but I do know that as long as it's in the app and you're logged into Facebook, they have your identity. So it's trivial for them to follow you from device to device, which is something that other advertising platforms have a real challenge with, don't they?
Right. That's right. This is something that could really use a lot of investigation, and I'm glad that Rich is getting more and more informed about the kinds of ads that Facebook and Google and Twitter have been working on. So I'm really interested in seeing if that's going to be a pain in my bandwidth or my user experience generally, but I'll be interested to try it.
Well, I'll tell you what to think about this, Jordan.
Please do. That's what you think.
If you're an advertiser, you're going to love this. You probably can't wait to get your hands on sequential video ads that target people from device to device.
And that's probably a big thing for Google because if Google's not going to get to it first.
That's right.
Those two are the biggest companies, right?
Huge, yes. But if you're a consumer and you just like using Facebook, if you find yourself annoyed by those auto-playing videos in your Facebook stream on desktop, you're really going to hate it when they start playing on your phone and their commercials for Hot Pockets or something.
Well, we'll see. Hopefully it'll be cool and I'll get excited about it.
All right, we're going to talk to Hillary Mason in a moment, but first, let's give a quick thanks to our host and sponsor, New Relic. a software analytics company that makes sense of billions of little tiny bits of data across millions of web and mobile apps. We are, in fact, coming to you from the recording studio at New Relic's headquarters in San Francisco. They help the people who build modern software understand the stories their data is trying to tell them and improve software performance and reliability, delivering a better experience for users and more success for your business. New Relic supports PHP, Python, Ruby, Java, .NET, Node, iOS, and Android apps. And I don't know, they're probably going to support Watson and Siri someday too, or their children once they get together and have them. And now let's bring on our guest.
Okay, now I'm really excited to have a guest that we have been following for a while now, Hillary Mason. She's a data scientist in New York, and she has a new gig called Fast Forward Labs. So Hillary, welcome to What to Think.
Thank you so much.
I think what I wanted to do is just have you go over what made you want to do this totally new thing. You were at Bitly. It's an established company. And then you went to Excel Partners. And now you formed this new thing. I'm trying to figure out why it is that you took the route that you did.
So my story actually begins before that. I used to work in academia, working on algorithms, and I've always been very interested in systems and then working on data generated by real human beings. So Bitly was an amazingly fascinating opportunity for me, getting to observe human behavior at large scale for the first time and work on products and systems on that data to hopefully, build better products. After that, I spent the last year at Excel, where I got to work with many fascinating entrepreneurs working on a wide variety of data-related products in many different industries. And I started to realize there was a bit of a disconnect between what people were building as companies, what people were working on in the research community, and what people were able to do at larger companies. And there are a lot of common problems that every company is facing when it comes to data.
That's interesting because we've been hearing this hype almost about big data and data analysis and the value of data science for a couple of years now. And it's interesting to hear you say that it sounds like the data science is not evenly distributed among the companies that would like to use it. Is that?
That's a very good way to put it.
Well, what are those challenges that companies are facing in taking advantage of data science?
So there are really two kinds of challenges that I'm seeing, or two categories you can put them in. One is the human side of the challenge, that is getting the right people in place and supporting them effectively. So making sure you have people who are great data scientists, who also are empowered within the business, who have good leadership, who know the goals that the business is really trying to accomplish. And then on the technical side, making sure that you have a robust technical infrastructure that makes it easy to start to play with the data and build systems on the data and new products on that data.
That's a really well thought out answer, Hillary. And by that, I mean, most people that I know would attack one of those two categories. They would say, hey, people don't understand technology, or they don't know how to collect data, or something like that in the technology side. Or they would say, people don't have a data scientist. It's one or the other. And what you're doing is blending two different kinds of industries together to come up with Fast Forward Labs. I just wonder if that was an idea that you came to as a step two, or that was your initial thought, a step one from the very beginning, whether you were at Excel when you realized that you were going to do this, or whether that was after that or before that, or what?
So I've actually been thinking about this kind of model for a long time, but what Fast Forward Labs is a business hack to try to find the most interesting opportunities.
I like the sound of that, yeah.
Because when you're a consulting company, people bring you problems they already understand very well and already have an answer in mind for. We're a research group, but our research, we send out these papers every couple months, and these papers are artifacts that we send to our clients where, they'll read it, they'll be as smart about this thing as we are, and then they might say, hey, this is really the right piece of technology or the right way to think about this problem I have in my business. And they can come back to us for help in actually making that a real product. So it's really a hack on that business model to try to find those really high potential opportunities that are great for our clients and great for us to work on, because they're pretty awesome.
That's interesting. So you're kind of using the research as a way of kicking off or hooking people into a deeper consulting business relationship then, right?
Yes, that. And then we also have the option to build some of these things out ourselves if we think we've found something that would make a great independent product.
I see. Are you also charging for the research, or is this a freemium model?
Yes, we are. It is not free.
Okay.
I want to actually find out a little bit more about the technology side of things. What have you already done in terms of the technology you want to introduce to people? And what's on the roadmap in terms of telling people about technology that they might not yet understand?
Sure. So our first project is in an area called natural language generation algorithms. And it's something where I see a huge amount of potential in business for this technology, but it really is just starting to happen. So we have a couple of companies in the market that are working on it. The most famous one is Narrative Sciences, but it's still the kind of thing that most people are only vaguely familiar with and don't really understand under the hood how these systems work and what they can expect. And most importantly, what they're good at and what they're not good at. So we have a paper that sort of lays out, this is how these systems are built. This is how you can think about it. Here's what they're capable of and what they're not. We have a functional demo where you can actually play with New York real estate data.
Whoa!
And start to... Yeah,
that's so cool.
I want to look at a 2-bedroom apartment in Chelsea, and it'll give you a little blurb automatically generated off of our training corpus.
Wow. That is such a unique thing, by the way, in analyst reports. No one else does that, right?
Well, you mean our reporting structure or this particular topic?
The report. I mean, who else would give a demo like that? That's just cool.
Well, the demo is part of our research process, and that I don't really believe I can fundamentally understand how to explain something to someone until I can build it, or at least a simplified version of it.
Okay.
And it also helps when you hand something like this to a technically inclined or enthusiastic person. They can start fiddling with the knobs, and they can come to their own understanding of what it can do and start to imagine how they might use it. But I bring this up as an example of the kind of thing that is really, I think, poised to see much more application in the next couple years. It's not yet really well understood, and there are just a few companies in the market that are really trying to build products around this.
That's an interesting approach, and I think it sort of makes sense because I think there are a lot of executives, sort of non-technical marketing, executives or general corporate, management types who know that they have a lot of data and that they could do something really cool with it if they can only get access to that data, but they may not necessarily know how to make that happen or exactly what shape that data is in or what the outputs might look like. And conversely, the technical people, the IT people or the product developers, may not have the time to do mock-ups that would demonstrate how to do this kind of stuff. So you're kind of, it almost sounds like you're facilitating the kind of, a sort of conversation between those two sides that might lead to, new products or new work for you guys, or just sort of a more general understanding of what data can do.
That's the idea.
One thing that I was wondering about when we talked yesterday and before I said, hey, you should come on our podcast, is how you might go about getting lots and lots of companies, like, for example, VentureBeat, knowing about what you're doing and making this sort of thing popular, not just with the few people you have in your network, but people all around the world. I mean, there's so many analyst firms out there, and there are, an increasing number of big data consulting firms. Whether you want to call it a hack or a consulting firm, I'm kind of abstracting that away now. I'm just saying, how are you going to make it like this huge, awesome thing? And we're going to look back on this day when we talked and say, wow, that was a huge, time when she was laying out the roadmap, the battle plan for Fast Forward Labs.
That's a really fun question. So what I'm really trying to do here is build a structure in this business that enables a new kind of applied science research. I think for many reasons, it's an underserved area where, startups aren't generally funded to do research. They're funded to build new products or experiment with new business models, but using well understood technology. And large companies have a lot of trouble doing research as well. And then you've got folks in academia doing fantastic research, but it's generally not connected to business problems at all. So what we're really trying to do is to draw those three communities together by building a structure where information and people can flow easily between them. So our plan to do that is to try and do really great work and tell that story and just sort of get it out there and work with a lot of really smart, interesting people on really fun, interesting things and see what happens.
Are you applying a data-driven approach to marketing this thing?
We probably should.
You should.
I've certainly been eagerly counting all the tweets.
If I have learned anything, I have learned that marketing people are starting to get aboard this data thing. And I imagine you'll choose an awesome CMO who wants to be data-driven and will figure out some great way to go to certain companies to reach out and say, hey, do you have a problem doing anything with data? Do you want to check out the latest stuff?
Oh, someday. I hope we get there. Though, ironically, what I learned at Bitly is that coming from the completely data-driven quantitative perspective, there's actually nothing more valuable than a really great story. And we could see that in that social media data very clearly.
I want to change the subject slightly before we have to wrap up here, but you've been very active in the New York tech scene for years. What's the state of New York tech right now? We're here in San Francisco, and fill us in on what's changed or what's new in the New York tech world right now.
Well, for one thing, New York tech is not new. It's taken seriously. When Bloomberg was in office, I was on an advisory board of technologists and people who run technology businesses. And now it's taken for granted that technology is an important part of the city's financial ecosystem. Mm-hmm. There are more companies than I can count offhand starting up.
I didn't mean to make that sound, by the way, like, oh, how cute, New York's new technology ecosystem. It does seem like it's shifted a little bit in the last couple of years. I don't know if that's a correct perception.
Uber, MongoDB.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's changed is not actually the total volume of technology happening here, but perhaps people's willingness to identify themselves as part of a community, in that we've always had tons of companies with large technical workforces here in New York. But now these people are actually coming out to meetups, whether they work at a finance company or, for the government or for a startup. So it's been pretty exciting to see that happen. I also think there are a lot of great reasons to build your company in New York. For example, all of our clients are here and the talent we need is here. And we're able to sort of find the people we need to talk to very easily. Like it's a great place to be.
Pardon me, I didn't mean to say Uber. It just came out of my mouth. Actually, there are a lot of other companies.
They're
one that I follow.
based in San Francisco.
Yeah,
yes.
DigitalOcean, Shutterstock, Tumblr, Yahoo's Tumblr, Etsy, Buddy Media, and Warby Parker, Kickstarter. There are a lot. And actually, let me just throw it out there. If you want to work with these kind of modern web companies that might already have 1 or 10 data scientists, do you have a lot of contacts with them? And do you say, hey, I know that you're using a NoSQL database, but are you using a graph database?
Well, if I ever say that, I hope someone smacks me.
Because graph databases are where it's at right now, Jordan. They're really cool.
Graph databases are coming up. I'll give credit to the graph people I know that they're seeing more use cases come out. Or maybe I should just ask you, actually, Hillary. Can you please weigh in for 10 seconds about graph databases for all the graph database listeners out there?
Oh, I've been a huge fan of graph databases for years,
yes.
But run into we tried to use them at Bitly for a few different applications and ran into some technical limitations. I will admit that I haven't gotten back to trying that stuff in the last 6 months, even though there have been some really interesting developments in the technology in the last 6 months. So that's an area I'm optimistic about, but have no hands-on experience with at the moment. That said, I don't think they're going to take over from document storage databases or anything like that. They're very good for particular applications, but not for everything.
Okay, got it. Well, you had better believe I want to get in on the Fast Forward Labs email list or PDF list. I want to see all this stuff. I'll be looking out for this stuff. So keep me posted and keep all of our readers abreast of what's going on in the latest technologies. We want to write about them, and I'm looking forward to seeing it all happen.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for inviting me to chat.
Thanks a lot, Hillary.
Thanks for being on our show, Hillary.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of What to Think. We'll catch you next week. And in the meantime, stay on top of all the tech news at VentureBeat.com. And thanks to our host and sponsor, New Relic. We'll catch you next week.
See you later.